All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to tackle a massive idea, one that could totally rewrite a foundational date in history. We're exploring a really compelling argument that Siam's story doesn't start where you think it does, not even close.
So let me just ask you a question. If you had to pick a single year, a start date for the Thai nation, what would you say? Now, if you went to school here, I'm willing to bet a very specific number just popped into your head.
Yep, that number, 1238. For generations, this has been taught as year zero, the moment the Sukhothai kingdom was founded, kicking off the entire story of the Thai people. It's the official beginning, right? But what if that's not the beginning at all? What if 1238 isn't chapter 1, but more like chapter 10? The argument we're digging into today says exactly that Sukhothai wasn't a birth, it was just a continuation of something much, much older. So, let's start by taking a closer look at this so-called year 1238 myth. The argument is that when we treat the state as a hard starting line, we're creating what historians call a discontinuous history. Basically, we're cutting the story off from its incredibly deep and complex roots. And the analyses we're looking at puts it so well. Great states, great civilizations, they don't just appear out of thin air. It's not magic. They grow from the foundations of what came before. Kind of like a huge ancient tree shedding old leaves to grow new ones. The land that would become Siam was never, ever empty. So to really get this, we need to rewind the clock. I mean, way back, long before anyone had even heard the name Sukhothai. Just look at this. Starting from the 6th century, this region was buzzing with powerful, organized kingdoms. You had the influence of Funan, the incredible art and cities of the Dwaravati, the massive maritime empire of Srivijaya. These weren't just scattered tribes, these were sophisticated states with kings, laws, and vibrant cultures. And they were all thriving for centuries before 1238 even happened. Okay, now here is the crucial link in this whole chain, the Lavo Kingdom. You should think of it as a historical melting pot. It absorbed the culture of the Mon people from Dvaravati and the immense power and influence of the Kalm from Angkor, mixed them all together, and then handed that incredible inheritance straight on to the next great power, Ayutthaya.
And this brings us to the absolute core of the entire argument. It's a game changer, and it means we have to completely rethink who the powerful Kalm of Angkor really were.
So, for the longest time, the old view was super simple. Khmer just meant ethnic Khmer. That's it. But this new argument, it's radical. It suggests Khmer wasn't just about your ethnicity. It was a political and cultural identity. It was a label for anyone, and that includes Siamese people, who was part of that incredibly sophisticated Deva Raja or God King system that was centered at Angkor. Being Khmer was a status, a sign that you were civilized within that world. It wasn't about your bloodline. And if that's true, it changes everything. Suddenly, the fall of Angkor in the 15th century wasn't an invasion by a foreign enemy. It was something historians call a translatio imperii, literally, a transfer of empire. The system itself, the very center of power and civilization, it didn't die. It just moved. It moved from Angkor to a new home base in the Chao Phraya Basin, Ayutthaya.
And that leads to a really bold claim that the kingdom of Ayutthaya, and not the kingdoms in post-Angkorian Cambodia, was the true, legitimate successor to the incredible glory of the Angkorian Empire.
So here's how it went down. In 1431, an Ayutthayan king conquers the great city of Angkor. But he doesn't just burn it to the ground. No, he does something much, much smarter. He basically uproots the entire state apparatus, the scholars, the Brahmin priests, the royal ceremonies, the very soul of the empire, and transplants it to his own capital, Ayutthaya. Ayutthaya literally becomes the new vessel for this ancient, powerful culture. And I mean, this table just makes the contrast so incredibly clear. While Cambodia enters what's called a dark age with unstable capitals and fading traditions, Ayutthaya becomes an absolute powerhouse. It perfectly preserves Angkor's royal language, its elaborate coronation rituals, its whole concept of divine kingship. It didn't just save the legacy, it made it flourish. There's a fantastic analogy that makes this all just click. Think of it like this. If Angkor was the great Roman Empire, then Ayutthaya was its successor, the Byzantine Empire. While the original center, Rome, faded away, Byzantium picked up the torch and carried that magnificent civilization forward for another 1,000 years. That's the relationship we're talking about here. And for anyone who's still a little skeptical, there is a killer piece of modern legal evidence. Get this, as late as 1907, colonial France, a global superpower, had to sign a formal treaty to trade territory with Siam just to get control of Siem Reap, the land where Angkor Wat is. This is basically an international legal admission that right up until that day, Siam was seen as the legitimate sovereign owner of the Angkorian heartland. So, how do we tie all of this together? Well, let's throw out that old idea of a single starting line and replace it with a much more powerful metaphor. Instead of a fragile, single line of history that just appears out of nowhere in 1238, we should be picturing a thick, powerful rope. A rope that's been woven together over 2,000 years from many, many different ancient strands. And what are those strands? Well, they're the great civilizations of this land, the amazing artistic culture of Dwaravati, the seafaring power of Srivijaya, the essential cultural bridge of Lavo, the imperial system of Angkor, and yes, of course, the Thai states of Sukhothai and Ayutthaya. All of them are twisted together to form one continuous, incredibly strong history. So the ultimate takeaway is this. The identity of Siam or Thai isn't really about a single starting point or a single ethnic group. It's the identity of a successor state, the political entity that has successfully carried the combined legacy of all these amazing civilizations forward without a break for 2,000 years. And that leaves us with one last pretty fascinating question to think about. When we look at the sweep of history, what does it truly mean for one culture to inherit the mantle of another? Is it about blood? Is it about language? Or is it about the simple, undeniable act of carrying the fire forward? Thanks for joining us.